All right, you're live.
All right, thank you, Chief of Staff Montgomery. Well, want to welcome everyone to this evening's Discipline Committee, Discipline Matrix Committee. And we're gathering today, Wednesday, October 30th, joined here with our esteemed group of panel experts and community folks that are joining us. Happy to join. Let me see, I'm checking the attendance. Nobody in attendance right now. So we have Acting Captain Hubbard, Deacon Reginald Lyles, and Mr. Dorham. Remind me your new title, because you just got a switch as well too, I believe.
Yes, sir. I'm a lieutenant, and I'm working in OIA, Office of Internal Accountability.
That's right. That's right. Well, welcome, Lieutenant Dorm, and we are here tonight. Last meeting, we made some good progress in reviewing some of this language and making some final edits to this. I know, Captain Hubbard, you had sent us the updated language, and so I'm assuming we want to review that today, and look at those final changes and just adopt those, and then anything else you may have on your list for us as we continue to move down the different list of violations that we've been looking at.
Sounds good. Let me share my screen.
Chair, I'm
Go ahead, Micah.
You're on mute, Micah. Micah, if you were trying to tell us something, you're on mute right now. If not, go ahead and jump in if you need to. All right, let's go ahead and move on.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. You're going in and out, Micah. I'm not sure if you keep on going in and out of mute. Not sure if you're trying to tell us.
Okay, something. Great. It was really weird. It didn't appear to be recording, and then I wasn't muted, but it was muting me. So it looks to be recording now. So I'll go back to mute.
Excellent. Thank you. All right.
Okay. All right. We all ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up my notes from the last meeting, and minus a couple grammatical things, the major changes are in bold. So we'll start with 234-24, loyalty and esprit de corps. So if you remember, we wanted to make this more inclusive to all members, but we wanted to kind of plant the flag, if you will, with the opening statement that commanders and managers are responsible for fostering loyalty and esprit de corps by upholding strategy, budgeting, discipline, and planning practices that build a foundation of unity and trust. These responsibilities promote alignment with the department's mission and purpose, setting a standard for all members to follow. Commanders and managers must lead by example, building a culture of integrity and accountability through transparent decision-making and actions demonstrating a commitment to ethical policing. This language remained the same. All members are expected to cultivate loyalty and unity within the department, to the City of Oakland, and most importantly, to the oath of office and police code of ethics. Esprit de corps refers to the shared pride, morale, and sense of purpose among members of the OPD. Fostering a positive and team-oriented culture means building morale, encouraging motivation and recognizing good work to promote teamwork and a positive attitude, creating unity, ensuring all members feel included, respected, and aligned with the department's mission and goals, encouraging loyalty, promoting commitment to the department and its mission while upholding the oath of office and constitutional values. And then finally, loyalty must be directed toward the oath of office and the Constitution, not blind loyalty to the department that conflicts with the community's trust or leads to ignoring misconduct.
I think that's excellent. captured much of the conversation that we had last week. Deacon Lyles, any thoughts? I think it's great.
I hope I'm not being too picayune, but what does upholding strategy mean? But back at the top, I want the lieutenants and the managers to be observant. If they see something that's going awry, like a clique developing within the department that is a part of some nefarious group or something like that, or some political trend, I want commanders and lieutenants are supposed to be observant, and sergeants, they're supposed to see things before they come over the horizon and then develop strategies. So upholding a strategy to me is not, it doesn't make sense to me. Uphold a strategy. No, I want you to be creating strategies to foster esprit de corps and loyalty. So if you see a group, I don't know if you guys, I always do better with examples. I don't know if you guys around law enforcement that remember, this is decades ago. Decades ago, there was a group that kind of clique kind of formed itself down in LAPD, and it was called Men Against Women. And they were tattooing themselves on their ankles. Is LAPD. And a lot of people in the department knew about it. Nobody thought it was something that they should nip in the bud or bring to the light. And maybe they was upholding the strategy, and there was no strategy for that, so they didn't have to say anything. So I want them observant in devising strategy to create loyalty, not only to the Constitution, City of Oakland, to their oath of office, and to the department. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Yeah.
If the lieutenants and the captains don't know what's going on, we're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is when we find out something's going on, when John Burris files the civil suit. And we got to be better than that, according to Dr. Eberhard.
I think that feedback also embodies, the challenge of commanding staff to think critically and to be able to have those conversations. We've been talking about having those feedback loops, right? And I think I agree with that for sure. I think by just upholding strategy is just status quo. By creating strategy, you're thinking critically, you're
Right.
developing new strategies, right? Because times change, personalities change, and so you always want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And scenarios change.
Yeah.
We can't think of what may be a burgeoning group that is negative to law enforcement and or an attitude or behavior. So we got to be able to see it before it takes root, so to speak, and develop a strategy on how to critically think how to figure it out and stop it. I know we're working on this paragraph over and over and over, but I think the more said, the better.
Okay. Let me just finish up my notes here. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you for that. I will work on that some more. Any other comments on this section?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. Next one is maintenance 234.96. Commanders and managers must ensure members have the tools to perform their duties effectively. Additionally, they are required to conduct regular inspections to ensure that all resources are properly maintained and fit for use. Commanders and managers must ensure that all facilities, equipment, supplies, and materials under their command are used properly, maintained in good condition, and not altered in a way that compromises their intended function. Regular inspections are required to ensure compliance and prevent unauthorized changes. Commanders and managers are responsible for the following: proper usage, ensuring all members use facilities, equipment, and materials as intended without misuse, neglect, or damage. Maintenance, overseeing the regular upkeep of resources such as vehicles, safety equipment, and electronic devices to keep them in optimal working condition. No unauthorized alterations, preventing unauthorized modifications to work issued items such as changing the configuration of work cell phones or altering safety equipment, which could impair effectiveness or compromise safety. Okay, any questions on that?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
All right, this next one is a big one, as we discussed last week, just because the biggest change here, and I'll go ahead and skip through this just because this talks about the internal. So what we talked about last week is when, let's say, when an officer is investigated for demeanor allegations publicly, we use this section. However, when you read it, it doesn't really talk about external demeanor issues. So we added this. In addition, all members and employees are expected to demonstrate equal respect and consideration for all community members, regardless of status or role. Members should address individuals with respectful titles such as sir or ma'am, and avoid slang or casual terms that may undermine professionalism. Members shall show empathy toward individuals experiencing duress as victims, witnesses, or subjects of a crime, recognizing the stress these circumstances may bring. This approach reflects a commitment to customer service principles, ensuring the department's interactions with the community are consistently respectful and considerate. That was my best attempt at that, although we can probably develop this more. I struggled just because this is one of those situations where it's a case by case. You know, there's sometimes where an officer can, I guess, to some be respectful, but to others not so much. It depends on the perspective of it. But I also don't want this to be, you know, a catch-all for everything. So I can certainly use some help in this paragraph to develop it.
I like the examples, and I know we talked about that before with the sir, the ma'am, and those are like signs, especially like just the cultural responsiveness of Oakland and signs of respect, right? I'm also thinking, is there an opportunity to add something around like modeling behavior at all times? Or I don't know if this is something that fits in here, but I think part of these expectations are also like, we don't want police to park in red and run red lights and feel like they could get away with things that the general public can't, right? And just kind of like just something that captures the essence of modeling what we want to see from our officers or from our citizens, for every members of, you know, that type of respect we want to, that type of mutual respect we want to have for each other.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I'm having a alarm going off with the word empathy. I know empathy to mean that I am concerned about you because I have experienced the same thing you're experiencing. If I sympathize with somebody, I don't know what you're going through, but I'm sorry you're going through it. But empathy means, from my education, I thought it meant that I understand the fact that you got a tooth pulled out today from the dentist, because I had the same thing a year ago. So I know the pain you're feeling. I don't know if every officer knows what citizens go through, and I don't know if they even have to. You know, you don't have to have lost a child to gun violence to relate to someone. You know, you don't. I can't empathize with them. I never had I never lost a child like that. So, so I would want them just to be courteous. What's wrong with courteous in there as opposed to empathy? I don't know who suggested that. And I'd like to, if anybody remembers, could share what they meant by that. What do they mean? Why they wanted the officer to empathize with the, you know, with the people?
I think in this instance, empathy is about really just trying to put yourself in somebody else's position or shoes,
Okay.
trying to understand the feelings that they might have about a particular specific situation. I don't think it's so much necessarily having had the exact same or the same experience.
Yes.
But it is something that we do teach and try to stress to our officers about, encountering situations and addressing people from a place of really just trying to put yourself in their shoes in that moment in time.
Maybe more words than less words then is needed.
Oh, understood. I was just sharing.
No, you explained it well. It makes sense to me now. Yeah, I would like that officers try to understand what the person is going through, what they're feeling.
And I think we also had a discussion in the context of like procedural justice and when talking to victims or folks that might be in distress, right? Like being able to like, have quote unquote that empathy to have that respect and care. And I think it was just trying to reach a little bit deeper level of just respect in that moment, but really like you're providing the same level of care to somebody in the flatlands to somewhere else in Oakland,
Yeah, I think you're giving the defense, you're building an out for an officer that's not showing courteous and in saying in not being courteous. And well, why weren't you empathizing with them? Because I've never experienced what they've experienced. Well, why don't you try to show that you care? It doesn't say that.
Gotcha.
See, therein lies the problem. We've built a defense here. I correct me if I'm wrong. I want the officer to be attentive and courteous and kind and professional. They may not even care about the person who's going through whatever circumstance. Fake it then. Treat them with respect. You don't have to feel like they feel. We're not looking for that.
That's right.
But we are looking for professionalism. We're looking for a sense of courtesy. We are looking for a sense of kindness. And we want you to respect this person is a full human being and not some, station person.
I agree. And I hear what you're saying. I guess the idea and the thought behind the word and the understanding of empathy was that being objectively respectful and professional can still look very, very cold. And I think what we were trying to do is get to a place where we operate of, being courteous, being respectful, but also being a human being, going to calls, engaging in situations and scenarios where you say to yourself, if I was in this scenario, if I was in this situation, how would I want the officers to respond to me and my family? And I just don't want to lose that human element, because I really do still believe that people at their core can relate to that, regardless of your profession. So I understand what you're saying. I think that was the intent.
I understand
I think that was the intent.
I understand the intent. I just think that the intent, as the defining of the word, a person who doesn't show empathy you give him a automatic defense is that I've never experienced what they're experiencing. I can't empathize with them. How do you expect me to understand childbirth? I've never birthed a child. I understand pain. I understand this woman is going through birthing a child and is in pain. I've never felt it. So, but I am courteous, I am respectful, I am kind, and I recognize that she's in a traumatic situation. I think, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have this penchant to want to streamline the words, and we really get away from what we're actually asking. Empathy is a definable emotion, and everybody doesn't have to to empathize with someone to serve them as a police officer, and a great one, and a good police officer. You do have to be professional. You do have to be courteous. You do have to be respectful. But man, I don't have to empathize with them. I don't live like them. I do understand that they need my help. And I'm being professional and kind and respectful in that regard. And that is about as human as you should ask any of your officers to be. If you're asking them to empathize with everybody that's calling for service, all you're doing is open up the door for a defense attorney to come in and rip any accusation to shreds. That's my opinion. You don't have to feel like they feel to be professional and respectful and efficient.
So can we put a pin on that word? And I feel like I'm hearing you say we just need to also be more straightforward around kind of what that baseline is. And to Lieutenant Dorm's point, I do remember that conversation, and actually being a very good point around somebody could think they're being respectful and very professional, but still kind of come off as being an asshole, for lack of better terms.
Okay, and I don't know that can you legislate, asshole?
Okay, so that's the question.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Is there a better way to say it to lead them to be more kinder or nice? Like
yeah, just kind is the best. The way you can get to that.
Kindness.
Respectful is the best way you can get that. If a guy comes off stoic, doesn't mean that they are not sympathetic to the circumstances that's in front of them, but they just have a resting stoic face, and we can't legislate that.
Yeah, because it becomes very suggestive. I mean,
it's very subjective. And then, okay, let's say someone who wants to just sue the department in the city. You didn't empathize with them. You were cold. So you got them complaints coming in. And what does empathize mean? And,
okay,
I'm kind of hearing Marsha's voice now in her comments about these things. So we can put a pin in it and come back to it.
Yeah, and I think going back to the spirit of what we were aiming at was to show a level of kindness or care that was just a touch beyond, like, because if you read the rest of the sentence, we're talking about duress as a victim or a witness or subjects of crime, right? Being maybe, I guess we're trying to aim towards just something that's a little more sensitive, that goes a little bit beyond just professional.
Okay, let's flip the coin over. Let's try it from a different perspective. I empathize with them, but I'm not courteous. I empathize with them, but I'm not kind.
Okay.
I empathize with them, but I'm not professional. Call ambulance, call ambulance. Okay, I'll get to it. I'm gonna get to it. John, could you call ambulance, please? She asked you to do it. Why didn't you 911 get them over here immediately? That's what I would prefer. Then
is there a term like
I don't see courtesy in here at all. I don't see anything about courtesy. I don't see anything about respect.
So, courtesy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So is there a simple word like that, or a term that encaptures
No, let's
that?
get away from the one word catch-all
Okay.
language. Let's use
You said
more words.
courtesy,
Let's
kindness.
really say what we want and let it be clear. If we try to get one word in it, then it's up to my interpretation, your interpretation, somebody's interpretation in that one word. Let's use more words here.
All right, that's excellent. We said what?
What would you
kindness.
want?
I would want somebody to be kind, courteous, yeah, gentle.
I want kindness, courtesy. I want professionalism. I want promptness.
There you go.
I want efficiency, you know, in a crisis. And I want them to listen to me.
That's a great one.
Yeah. You know, hearing me and listening to me, two different things. Hearing me, well, I hear you talking. Listening to me, I'm listening to you with focus. I'm concerned about what you're saying, and then I'm going to do something about what you're saying. That's listening.
Okay. I'm just going to put this out there. I really do hope that we can in some way, shape, or form, find a way to still keep or incorporate empathy in there. I hear everything else, and I agree. I'm just hoping there's a way to because to the chair's point, I think we are looking for just one step above, just one step above the basic level of respect. I think we're looking for a little bit more, because the circumstances and situations that an officer in community can find themselves in together and intertwined with its extreme circumstances. It's everything under the sun, and it's really the things that bind people together. So I'm hoping. I am hoping about that.
And I get your sentiment, and your sentiment is well stated, but I don't think you can legislate empathy. I just don't think you can I don't think you can manage empathy, because nothing in the Constitution says you have to empathize with anyone to do your job. You just don't have to do it. And if I don't have to do it, and you saying I have to do it here, then if I'm called up on it in some kind of disciplinary matter, then I'm out. I get here's the doorway out right here, because I would ask you to define empathy. Then I would get somebody else to define empathy. And then it'd be so many definitions out there. Hey, you lost it. But professional. Well, you weren't professional. What do you mean? Well, you're yawning in the personal face and you're not listening to them. They asked you to call an ambulance and you did not do it. That's unprofessional. You're not prompt. You weren't responsive. All of that is something that we can measure. I don't know how you measure empathy. I know you want officers that are more kind and more human and caring about the citizens. However, that's nowhere on any entrance examination or application or definition about being a police officer. Just doesn't exist.
And I hear that. I guess what I'm saying is that this opportunity allows us to do a couple of things. It first allows us to be far more restrictive in what we require and request of our officers than the Constitution. Secondly, I think that looking at it from a place of what we want versus what a should, or a shall, or a ask, I think it still allows for us to have that as an ask in our policy. Like, I'm not saying that we're saying an officer shall be empathetic, but I don't think there's anything wrong with asking or saying that this is what we would like our officers to put forward as they engage with community. So I think that
I think that's part that would be enfolding into esprit de corps. That would be sergeants and lieutenants standing up in front of their squads, talking about expectations and how to treat anyone. But you see right here, it said members shall show empathy. I don't know how to do that. I think.
Oh no, and that's exactly why I said that. I'm not saying that it has or that it should be a shall. I'm just saying that.
But listen to what you're saying.
To leave it as a.
But see, I'm saying that
because your argument is that we can't let.
No, my argument is
you're saying that you can't.
My argument is that a member shall show kindness. Yes, you have to do that. You shall do that. You shall be courteous. You shall be professional. You shall be prompt. You shall be responsible. You shall try to help. You don't have a choice not to help. You
and I don't have any argument in that.
Okay, so
I agree with that.
Okay, if you agree with that, then empathy can't go in after shall, because there's no way we can legislate empathy. That's a feeling.
But what I'm saying is that I think that when we're talking about what we hold officers accountable for, I agree with you. All the shalls that you listed, I agree with. I do not find it to be a problem that if we're saying that you cannot legislate empathy, I still don't have a problem with it being something that we ask and request of our officers. So I'm not saying that it be listed as a shall. I mean, in my perfect world, it would be, but if we agree that we cannot legislate it, then I still think that it has a place in being an ask of our officers. And this is just a. Again, I just want to say I respect the position in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't mean to rob you,
but I just no. I respect it. It's passionate. I truly appreciate this because it gives me a lot to think about and consider as I lead and I manage within this agency.
You can move the empathy out of this sentence and place it someplace else. You know, when we talking about how do we build esprit de corps or something like that, you can say managers are trying to encourage officers to empathize with the people whom they serve. You can put it in there. But these things, kindness, courtesy, professionalism, promptness, responsiveness, helpful, active, listening, all of that can be measured. You can't measure empathy. Well, I empathize with them, it's just how I show it. What do you mean? Well, I didn't look him in the eye, and of course I didn't respond to him when she asked me for something. It doesn't mean I didn't empathize with him. See, you get into that gray area, and we're just in a quagmire then. And a lot of the language in some of these documents are set up for that. And that's what we're on guard about.
Mm-hmm. So I think we might have a deliverable for you, Captain Hubbard. If we could try to wordsmith this a little bit and then find maybe another place to incorporate empathy.
Esprit de corps.
But I do appreciate this discussion.
And I do too. Thank you, sir, for the comment.
Absolutely. And Captain Hubbard, you always do a fantastic job of capturing the spirit of the conversation in your work, man. So I'm looking forward to how you start to wordsmith and your thoughts around this for the next meeting as well.
I knew this section would be a lively conversation. It's like we talked about last week, it's one of those most common sustained sections. And so that's why I think it's important that we get this right. Before we move on, I want to make sure that I'm also okay. The avoid slang and casual terms. This is a struggle, just because there's a lot of subjectivity behind this. What one person refers to as slang, the other person may not feel that way. I know it's still highly debated. So I don't know how it might speak to Deacon Lyle's point where if I can summarize where I agree with him on the word empathy, it's a conclusion that's not supported by facts. So it's just like, oh, it doesn't really have much substance to it. And an officer can say, I was empathetic, or they can conversely with this saying it wasn't slang, it wasn't a casual term. That's how I normally talk or whatever. So I want to avoid that when necessary by elaborating more on that. So are there any thoughts on slang or casual terms as I highlighted here?
Well, when I was a young officer, I used to try to endear myself to guys because I tried to pick up on their street, language, and I got things wrong all the time. It's just horrible. Don't use your language you're comfortable with. Don't try to pick up something you heard your nephew say and define it for you. So I agree. Stay away from the slang because they change.
Yeah.
I mean, I just found out this year what bipping means. Now I know I'm aging myself, but I know, that was everybody. Oh, this guy's out bipping. What is that? Okay. So can't talk to me that way. Otherwise, you're talking a different language.
Okay, yeah, and I know that Dr. Eberhardt in her study, she found that officers talk differently to different races. And for example, male or female white driver, sir or ma'am, but a minority driver saying, "Hey, my man," or
Yeah.
"What's up, bro?" And so it would be easy for one to say, "Oh, I always talk that way to my friends or even in casual acquaintances," but we want to stop that. We want it to be equal across the board. It's a challenge. I mean, it's one of those highly debated things, even in training, it just elicits a response from a lot of people. So, all right. Anything else on this section? I will make these adjustments and we'll come back to it next week with fresh eyes, and we might have some more comments. So I did some research on competent authority. Maybe my memory just was not serving me correctly last week, because I could have sworn that there was a section within the Police Officer Bill of Rights that actually used this term. And of course, I couldn't find it when I tried to look it up. So I'm still researching. And I know I said it a couple times last week on what a competent authority means. I have the generic definition found in the dictionary, but I'm still working on that if we're going to use it somewhere in the manual of rules. So I just earmarked that. And then we left off talking about the top violations in manual rules, and leading up to this evening provided the actual manual of rules that I hoped everyone was able to actually look at and kind of critically think through. I know we addressed it kind of late in the evening last week, so I don't know if we really had much energy to go through each one, but this is kind of where we're at right now. If we want to go through these again and kind of get into the details of the definitions.
No, I think Captain Hubbard, we made it down a little bit down this list, right? I think we made it to like maybe 8, 9, 11-ish. I can't remember where we left off, but I remember we started knocking down some of this. Or was this a new set?
Yeah, no, that we went through all these actually. We it was only 9 that constitutes our most violated manual rules section. And we actually went through all 9. So I don't know if we left off where I think people wanted to actually go, like, have some time to actually read through the manual of rules instead of thinking on the fly like we were doing last week.
Gotcha.
And see if there's any room for adjustment. I don't know if anyone had a chance to do that, but
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have not.
Okay.
So let me see if
we can certainly come back to it. I don't want to put any pressure on anyone. And so the other part 3 of tonight that I had planned was I had also all the manual of rules sections that were the first offense would be termination. No, we wanted to prioritize those.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let me pull that screen up and then maybe we can start chipping away at those. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm going to try to do a split screen here. No, maybe not. I'll just do it this way. Okay. So these violations, there's 11 of them where they're class 1 violations, and that's what this dash means after, or the number after the dash, 31439. So the first one is planting of evidence. There's no particular order to these. They're just all that I can find within the 80 manual of rules, where if the officer or member was sustained for this, the only option would be termination. There's no range of discipline. So let's look at planting of evidence. I'm going to pull up the section here. Okay. So 31439, this is in the performance of duty section. All members and employees shall perform their assigned duties and responsibilities as required or directed by law, departmental rule, policy, or order by a competent authority. Each member and employee is accountable for the exercise of delegated authority and shall not conceal, divert, or mitigate their true culpability. Violations of performance of duty include, but are not limited to, the following: intentional illegal search, seizure, arrest, unintentional or improper search, seizure, arrest, planting of evidence, which we're talking about here, failure to perform duties as required or directed by law, departmental rule, policy, or order, improper care of the property of persons, and changing a work assignment without authority. So as you see here, there's a wide range of sections that fall within performance of duty. This one has its own, but it's not defined anywhere on what that really means.
Planting of evidence.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no like narrative, as we previously discussed. It doesn't have its own section. It basically says you would be sustained for this and then termination would result. But like, what does planting of evidence really mean? I mean, I think it might be self-explanatory, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I would it seemed like planting of evidence may sound benign, but it's horrible. So, and illegal.
Yeah.
Well, illegal planting of evidence. Well, there's no legal way you can plant that.
Yeah, I was trying to think for the legal way. That's right.
So I think it's self-explanatory. It may, let's just have officers who seize evidence have to process it in the department according to policy, departmental policy, and the law. Any other planting of evidence is a criminal offense. That's how I see with planting evidence. That's the guy who drops a bag of weed or cocaine in somebody's back seat and say, "Oh, look what I found. Look what the dog alerted on," and they dropped it themselves. So it does happen in law enforcement, and it's horrible.
Yeah. And it's one of those where intent has nothing to do with it. You know, regardless of what the officer's intent is behind it, it's not relevant.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
This is about as black as white as you can get.
Yeah. It's interesting how it's placed here. You know, it to me is it's almost color of authority type things, which would be a different section, and just it's kind of hidden in here where it's serious enough where you can get terminated, but there's really not much.
I think it braids in there because you plant evidence, then I can arrest you. You plant evidence, then I can seize your car. You know, you plant evidence, Shamil law, I can further search because I see this evidence here. Now I can go into, your closet, or I can go into your basement because, hey, look what I found on the steps here. Bag of cocaine that I illegally planted. I dropped there, the police officer. So now I can look down the steps and see what I see. So I think it's natural to be there, but it is about as nefarious as you can get. So what do you need? Just a paragraph to explain what planting evidence is?
I don't think we even need that. It's just if it jumps off the page, just as you've probably seen this for the first time, if it's fine as is, then we can leave it. But if this committee is really looking, or ad hoc looking at things that are outdated or unclear, or things that could be escapable by a good argument.
And I'm a police officer, a former police officer, so it makes sense to me. But so I'm thinking, why don't we add planting evidence, semicolon, and then say what it is. The nefarious placing of evidence to foster an arrest or seizure.
Right. Okay. I'll work on that. I don't think I've ever been challenged on that, where I've never heard of a young officer asking what that is. It's really the heart of the NSA. Just, I guess I'm surprised that it just doesn't have a more elaborate standalone paragraph. And the other thing is, of course, it's like one should expect criminal charges against them, the officer, if they do that. It's not something that just results in termination. It's a criminal.
AI is saying planting evidence is the illegal act of changing, hiding, moving, or fabricating evidence to make it less valid or available in a trial or investigation. Other terms of this act includes evidence tampering, fabricated evidence, forged evidence, fake evidence, and tainted evidence.
Okay.
That's synonymous to planting evidence. So planting evidence is tampering with evidence, or placing evidence there that wasn't there originally. Or staging evidence that wasn't there originally.
Sure. Yeah, I will expand on that. All right. Any other questions for planting of evidence? Identification of an undercover officer, 37010. Let me type in that. All right, this says members and employees shall not intentionally reveal the identity of an undercover officer.
Amen. Okay.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever seen this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, any questions on that?
What if that happens unintentionally?
Yeah,
Are there rules around that? Like if that comes out in an investigation, it just was negligence or
If it's unintentional, then I don't think you can hold anybody responsible. You got to intentionally do that.
yeah.
so negligence, there'll be a different discipline. It wouldn't be automatic termination, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, it kind of falls under the performance of duty. If it doesn't apply anywhere here, it usually falls back on the performance of duty section.
If you unintentionally identify undercover officer, and I think that happens all the time because, hey John, hey, how you doing? What you doing out here? They don't know you on the job. They don't know you working. You're on a particular case, and so unintentional. I don't know. I don't think you can hold anybody accountable for that. But if you intentionally went and got paid to point out who the undercover officers are, or who the women are who are working as police officers, in a prostitution sting or something like that, yeah, you should be fired because you put everybody's life at risk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if interfering with an investigation also kind of applies to this. So let's say that I want to protect someone during an investigation. So I just send them a text, say, hey, just FYI that you have undercover officers out there working an operation. I didn't really reveal the identity of the officers, but it certainly puts them at risk when I notify people that this is going on.
I remember on an ad hoc, we had that kind of fervent discussion because certain folk wanted to know when an undercover operation was in their particular area, the citizens.
Yeah.
They want you let us know, tell us. We can't tell you. If we tell you, we put everybody at risk. No, we're not, never. It's, no, we can't tell you. And they were adamant. You can let us know. No, we can't let you know.
Right.
And shouldn't let you know. And so.
All right. Any questions on that section? Okay. Reports and bookings. Okay, so this is a big one that we see often, 370.45. No member or employee shall knowingly submit false, inaccurate, improper departmental records with the intent to assist prosecution or defense, falsify time records or financial records for fraudulent purposes, falsify official reports or records, falsify or alter evidence. So where we often see these, there's two, and Captain or Lieutenant Gordon Durham may help me with this also, but there's a thin line between this and truthfulness. So we see this in testimony where an officer testifies in a case and there's something inaccurate that is discovered. And we also see this in body-worn camera review where what is seen in the video does not match what the officer wrote in his or her report. So I'll let you sit on that because this is a big section that we use.
And Captain Hubbard, you got that correct from my assessment as well. truthfulness. We're required to be truthful at all times. The reports and bookings is something where in this you're also not being truthful, but this would be the most appropriate MOR section to use for these specific guidelines listed below. So that's accurate.
Any questions on that one?
No, not for me.
Straightforward. Huh?
Compromising criminal cases, 370-72. Members and employees shall not interrupt, attempt to interrupt, or improperly influence the legal process, engage in any activity with the intent to interfere with the criminal investigation, charging, or prosecution of any case, or fail, refuse to cooperate with an official criminal investigation upon direction of a competent department authority. Oh, there we go. Okay, I just answered my own question from earlier.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of if I've seen this recently. It's I know in the past I've seen this with outside agencies. You know, you have a friend or relative who got arrested in an outside agency, a different agency, and there's some influence based on one's employment here to alter that or be involved in that when they shouldn't be. Nothing recent pops up that I can think of.
Members of employees shall not interrupt.
So in that regard, would you have to explicitly say directly engage or assist? Because there have been cases where it's like, oh, my cousin got in trouble here, come with me, and you know, I don't know, that could be urban legend, but I hear about that all the time. Like, it's good to you're I mean, that's where that get out of free jail card, or how does that term come from? Right? I mean, and essentially it's like knowing the right person in the right place and using your influence. So yeah, I guess it covers using improperly influenced though. I don't know if there's any additional thoughts. It seems pretty straightforward to me.
Well, it's all like, I guess the way I'm thinking through this is that it's obviously more than just something intentional, but it's I don't know, like if I call to inquire about something, is that interference, you know? And it can be one of those very it's a slippery slope. Hey, I'm just calling the investigator to see, hey, my friend got arrested for driving under the influence. I just want to see how things are going. So I call the investigator, let's call CHP. I have a conversation with the CHP officer, and then I in turn tell my friend, okay, this is what's going on. You know, it could be something very benign. Oh, I'm just checking in, but nefarious, if you will, on my intent behind it.
You know, I think it's any citizen can call in and ask anything. We have freedom of speech. You know, it's up to the police officer, the professional agency to say, you know, we can't talk about that. It's an active investigation, so we're not saying anything to anyone about this. And so I don't think it's the I think the way I see this is when someone calls in who has some pull, some authority, or think they do. I'm calling from the different agency to call this OPD and say, hey, look, I'm Captain so-and-so, and you know, my son was arrested, and is there anything you can do for him?
Yeah.
That's thin ice there. But you can say, hey, look, I'm Captain so-and-so. I understand my son got arrested. And then, you know, they can say, yes, he was arrested at this time, at this date for these charges. That's all we can tell you. Well, let me speak to your boss. Now you get
Yeah.
now you
That's
go over the line.
slippery slope. And
Yeah.
internally here also, it's influencing an investigation. The example I used earlier about notifying someone that there's undercover officers. I mean, that is an investigation that you're undermining. And that would fit into this category.
Well,
I
there's some responsibility on the people who receive the phone call too. I mean, that's all I'm saying. You know,
Yeah.
somebody they can ask what they want to ask, and you say, I don't know anything about an operation like that. Is there an undercover operation out there on 56 in Genoa? I don't know anything about that. Sorry, can't help you. Click, hang the phone up.
So Gordon, I mean, obviously we can't talk about cases, but in your experience, so let's say that I get arrested from an outside agency and I show my badge and I say, hey, can you just cut me a break? Does that fall into this category? We've had some stories with that.
It could, but most likely that would be gifts and gratuities. Yeah. So if there's a difference between getting treatment that wouldn't necessarily be provided to you unless you tried to elicit some type of quote unquote professional courtesy or something like that, versus taking an action that under these bullet points compromises the case. You could have both. You could very well have both. And that's when that assessment of the actual specifics and details of the case come handy. It could start as gifts and gratuities and then turn into compromising. It could start as compromising and then turn into gifts and gratuities. Like if you had that conversation and you said, hey, can we do this, yeah, I'm an officer, help me out, do me a solid. So there are times where you could have both, intertwined into the incident.
What do y'all think about that? Because I'm struggling with that because in a way why would I say, hey, cut me a break by showing my badge if I wasn't trying to interrupt or attempt to interrupt the process of the officer,
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, at the end of the day too, right? Like the part of this is about getting to the point where we get to ask those questions. That's what you do in the investigation. You get to a point in the investigation where you have the subject and we're interviewing them and we're asking them specific questions about what they did, why they did it, what their mindset was, what they were trying to accomplish, and then evaluating whether the responses that they're providing are reasonable, and whether they're credible in those responses. So I absolutely, Captain Hubbard, that's fair. It's a fair point.
Any other comments on that?
I will add this, just like in your scenario, for example, you could be in a situation where Deacon Lyles mentioned, like the scenario of the son, being in custody, asking questions. It could be that the officer asks questions in a way that makes the person ask them what they do. You seem very knowledgeable about the law. What is it that you do? Well, now this person's being asked to advise of of what they do for a living. Now, if they say, well, I'm actually an officer, is that interfering? If the person says, oh, okay, well, this is what we'll do, we'll go ahead and we'll get your son out of here. I don't know. Did they, is that gifts and gratuities on the standpoint of the officer who calls in? I can see where it can go both ways. Here they call, they ask questions that they had the legal right to ask on behalf of their child, and they were asked by the officer what they do for a living. They shared it, and now the course of this interaction or this investigation changes course. So just things to consider.
Yeah.
I may expand on this a little bit.
Yeah, I'm thinking compromising criminal cases, big things like, letting people know where the drugs, to move the drugs because the police are on their way, that kind of stuff. So,
well,
if anybody calls up and asks about their family member or whatever, that's happened to me, and I didn't feel bad about saying, look, he's here for this and that, and your car is here and there, and you need to go down and get your car before they tow it. Or I didn't feel bad about that. And there's a certain thing as professional courtesy, and it does exist. We all know it does. So,
to your point, Deacon Lyles, I guess it comes down to like, where's the line? Where do we draw where's the line? And so when we say like, and I totally get it. I guess when we say like big things, well, what's big to you might not be big to somebody else.
felonies.
And yeah, okay, all right, okay.
Felonies,
Yeah,
your park bonds.
Absolutely. So I get you. I just for the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Somebody acting out and they got arrested for drunk in public or something like that, and their car's parked somewhere. You can help them out, tell them where it's parked, come down, get the keys or whatever. I think there's the empathy.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. I was like, he set me up on that one.
Okay. I may dig a little deeper into this. It's also like I'm thinking out loud here. The officer who's on duty, who's now compromising a criminal investigation to help out someone else. So it can work the other way also. Like the example just provided about DUI, but let's take domestic violence.
Oh,
A uniformed officer here in Oakland goes to a call and it's an outside agency off duty involved in domestic violence, and how easy it would be for them to compromise that in criminal investigation just by the officer's actions. So I want to kind of flip it around too. Anyway, I'll work on this. This is one I have to think about some more. Right, assisting criminals, 37081. Oh, here it is. Members and employees shall not disclose to any person attempting to commit a criminal act or who may be engaged in criminal activity any information that might assist him/her in committing a crime, evading arrest, or disposing of evidence of any unlawful act. Yeah, I have nothing for this. Anything jump off the page?
Mm-mm.
I mean, this kind of goes back to the what if you inadvertently do it? Sometimes we, with social media, just even the good intentions that we have here of deterring crime, sometimes, sharing too much information about certain operations that we're doing. But I think it's more specific to the person and not necessarily the crime. Maybe I'm overthinking this. I mean, it's like I we want to prevent people from committing crime. I mean, that should be our number one goal. And by doing things to prevent that from happening is not assisting them. It's just preventing the crime.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
just
Especially if it's a family member. You ought to be talking to them.
right. Yeah. But it's not.
I don't,
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm overthinking.
I mean, how about those what do they call them? Those holiday CHP and local law enforcement does it too, where they set up and stop people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then check for their blood alcohol and all of that.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be a time when they would set those things up in streets and stuff, and they wouldn't let you know.
Yeah.
Where they were. Now the law says you got to announce where they're going to be.
That's right.
So letting people know that, hey, look, we don't want you committing a crime over here. So we got extra patrol over here, So you guys be careful when you go out tonight. I don't see that as, I think that's caring about the people. Yeah. Then I don't know about you guys, but I use Waze. Do you guys use Waze when you driving long distance?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, well, Waze lets you know, police officer. It picks up the officer's signal back to the Wi-Fi signal, and so it lets you know that there's a police officer 2 miles up.
Oh,
yeah, slow down. And then after you get there, it asks you, was he still there? And then you could punch in yes or no. If you say no, then that lets everybody in the system know that the officer there is gone now. I understood that the law enforcement a little upset with Waze for doing it. It went to up to, I don't think it went to the Supreme Court, but it went to some appellate court, and they said, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
Can the very police officer who's sitting there say that they're no longer there? Can they go on Waze and just say, no, they're not here anymore?
I never thought about that. Yeah. But if they're there, the car is giving off that signal.
Yeah.
So you always know where the location of the officer is.
Huh.
So is that illegal? I know some CHP guys were upset about that, because their tickets went down. But that was the purpose of you being out there.
And that's the hope, is that we'll slow down. Right.
Less speeding, less accident, less death.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Waze is helping us.
Yeah. And the safety of the officer, I mean, it's dangerous. I'm more afraid of getting hit by a car than someone shooting at me. So I'd rather people know and slow down.
Especially in that deep East Oakland. Things have changed. Stop signs mean nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, moving right along. Endorsements and referrals. Fee is exchanged 370.90. Should be
Yeah, that's an old one there. So you can't say, hey, if you need your car worked on, my cousin's got a shop down the block.
Yeah, endorsements that members and employees shall not suggest, recommend, advise, or otherwise offer counsel concerning the procurement of a particular product or professional service, whether or not a fee is exchanged.
Yeah. I'm surprised politics is not in there.
It is. Yeah, here it is right here.
It's further down. Okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Well, we can get to that here. I don't know why this reads so heavy. So this is a first offense of termination, whether or not a fee is exchanged, huh? Wow. They're
I
not.
don't, I think, it could lead to bribery, it could lead to, that's probably why they're saying no to that. Like gratuities, I guess.
It's like to avoid that pay for play politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I guess I'm hung up on whether a fee is exchanged or some type of personal gain is from it. Because what if I, like, hey, I got my hair cut down here and I think they're great, and I don't get a discount as a result. I don't know. I'm suggesting, I'm recommending, but I'm not. I don't know. It seems vague to me. In other words. It's also like we're often asked as, like new businesses pop up and people will say, hey, we, spread the word, we're a new business or whatever. I don't know. It just doesn't seem, I know that's a slippery slope, certainly, but if I'm getting nothing in exchange for it, I don't know. Wish there was a backstory to this. I don't know why that's such a heavy discipline.
Well, when I was back in the day, people would come to the front counter, and of course they were looking for Bell's bondsmen and all of that. And it was a hard rule that you couldn't recommend anyone. You just point at the sign,
Yeah,
and list them all. Uh, you didn't want the Bell's bondsmen or the group to be giving you some gratuities, a little kickback for sending business their way.
sure. Yeah.
And all of these kind of things corrupt a department. So
Hmm.
It's better to come down hard first offense, and so people stay away from it. It's third rail.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, can we expand on this? Is it pretty self-explanatory for?
Yeah, I think leave it like it is.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay. Subversive organization 38470. No member employee shall knowingly become a member or affiliate of any subversive organization with a specific intent to foster its unlawful objectives, except when necessary in the performance of duty and with the prior authorization of the chief of police.
That's self-explanatory.
This is LA County. There's a lot of things in the news about them, about
Oh yeah.
regarding this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think so too. It just, this sentence or this right here is weird. It's like with the specific intent to foster its unlawful objectives. So what if I join a group that's subversive, but I have no intent to foster its unlawful objectives?
Right. You know, that like the last one where it says if even if you're getting any compensation or not, seem like that should go in here also, with the specific intent to foster its unlawful objectives or not. You know, either way, I'll put that clause in there.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. And then I'm not sure. I have to look into this, like what actually constitutes a subversive organization.
Hmm.
I mean, is it,
Well,
or-
if subversive would be somebody that had unlawful objectives.
yeah. So
That's how I would define it. If you go
I
any
guess-
deeper, then you're in that slippery slope.
I mean, I guess my first example or thought would be like a motorcycle club, right? You might join a motorcycle club and might not know that there's parts of it that have subversive intents or members. I mean, I don't know like how slippery of a slope that is.
Well, if they got a reputation of you know,
Known to law
having
enforcement.
an unlawful activity, then that's self-explanatory. But there are a lot of motorcycle groups and clubs that if you didn't know, you didn't know.
Huh.
You have to know that something's unlawful and being done to be held accountable for it.
Or reasonably should know.
Or should know.
yeah, I think that's somewhat more definable than someone who's hiding behind the First Amendment. Let's just say that they are a hate group and what they're doing is not technically unlawful per se, but they promote hate with,
It's lawful. The promotion of hate is not free speech.
yeah, what's a better way I can explain it?
You know, if you join a political organization that has some extreme right or left ideology, if it is saying they hate 7 protected classes, then you're in trouble. If they don't, then if you want to be a part of that group, I think you can be a part of that group, but just at your own risk.
Yeah.
You know? I think if we go any deeper in defining subversive or whatever, I think there again we're in a slippery slope, like the discussion we had earlier about empathy. I don't know how you can. The only thing that can define a subversive group to me is it's unlawful activity. If we dress a certain way, or we look a certain way, or we drink beer, but we don't do anything unlawful, hey, we wear our hair long or short or braids or whatever, it's fine. But if you move in methamphetamine from Canada to Mexico up and down the highway, and well, I didn't do it, I'm just joining the group, but you
Yeah.
know what this group is about, or you should know.
Yeah.
And if the group is built on, you know, we're a hate group, you know, we're the Ku Klux Klan. You can't make nice with them and be a police officer without being accused of being a Klansman. So that's subversive to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah.
And I also think that the, in the discipline matrix where it speaks about bringing disrepute to the department kind of falls in line with addressing some of the other caveats that might be affiliated with other types of groups or could be if someone was, knew about it.
Okay. All right. Refusal to testify, 398-48. A member or employee who appears as a witness before a competent investigative body, judicial tribunal, hearing board, or person authorized to compel testimony and who refuses to testify shall be subject to disciplinary action.
I agree with that 1000%.
Absolutely.
You've taken an oath. So if you're refusing to do it, then you ought to get another job.
Okay. Interfering with investigations, 398-70. Okay, sorry, members and employees are prohibited from contacting any witnesses, complainants, or subjects involved with internal or citizens police review board. That needs to be changed. Excuse me 1 second. Because it's CPRA now. Might just change it to external body just in case it changes again. Sometimes we write these things and they change quickly, so I might keep it more general. Investigations for the purpose of discussing or influencing their testimony or persuading them to withdraw complaints. When routine contact with such persons is unavoidable, members and employees shall refrain from any discussion of complaints against department personnel or testimony relating to those complaints. We do get a lot of these. Yeah, I think it speaks. So a lot of people I think read into this too much to be where there needs to be intent, but it doesn't necessarily have to. Just me notifying someone that they have a complaint even before they officially notify the department can influence it. So we do see this a lot.
Make me understand that. You mean you telling a citizen that the action that they experience with an officer is a complaintable action. They think that you are interfering if you do that?
This is
interfering if the complaint has not been established.
No, I was more speaking of let's say that a citizen does officially file a complaint and
Okay.
I alert the officer like, hey, FYI, this person filed a complaint against you.
Oh,
Better get your story right, kind of thing.
no, that's terrible. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, and it's also the persuasion for them to withdraw complaints. Extreme example of that was like, oh, I'll get you out of that ticket if you withdraw your complaint, or
Right.
going overboard to get them. So that can be interference. But a lot of times we just, we take our investigations seriously and their confidentiality behind them very seriously. And the no talking about the case is very important. And we even admonish people after we interview like witnesses, for example, we say, hey, you're admonished not to talk about this case, period, for this very reason. Right. I had to just change the CPRB because it's no longer called that. I might keep it more general. Retaliation 398.73. Oh, right there. Under no circumstance shall members or employees retaliate against any other member, employee, excuse me, or any other person for engaging in a protected activity. Members and employees shall not engage in any adverse action that would cause a reasonable member, employee, or any other person to be deterred from engaging in a protected activity, or is based on a retaliatory motive arising out of a member, employee, or any other person engaging in a protected activity. Any member, employee who becomes aware of such conduct shall immediately report the misconduct to a commander manager and or directly to the Internal Affairs Division. The presumptive penalty for violation of this section shall be termination. So this is another example of like the problem. I don't want this to conflict with, I guess it really doesn't. I'm trying to think if like the commander or manager is the one who's retaliating, then you're not going to report it to them. So IED is, I guess,
Well, let's say you have a sexual harassment case or something like that. You don't have to stay within the department to make the complaint. You don't have to stay within the chain of command, correct?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So why could that? This is a question I'm asking you, Captain. Could that strategy be used here? I mean, when it's appropriate, you can report it to the commander or manager. But if the commander or manager's the one responsible, then you ought to be able to. What is the protocol of the city? You can report it to city attorney.
Yeah. Equal.
Mayor's office.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Whistleblower, the ethics commission. Yeah. There's a lot of avenues. So maybe I'll expand on that just to give people.
Just add that protocol in there so it won't just be limited to a commander and manager.
Okay. All right. We'll take care of that. And I think the last one is truthfulness, 398.80. I cannot get this right tonight. All right, members and employees are required to be truthful at all times, whether under oath or not, except when necessary in the performance of official duties. Such exceptions shall be documented in the appropriate police reports.
Yes. Period.
Yeah, I don't.
The laxing of this rule is what has gotten law enforcement in so much trouble. As if there's some flex in being truthful. And it's happening all over the country.
Okay, that takes us through the list of only termination cases. I don't know if this is a good place to stop and talk about what's next for us.
Yeah, agreed. I think this is a good place to go ahead and pause. Definitely a lot to digest. Is there, as we look at the next chunk of MORs, there we go.
Yeah.
there
So
any-
the
maybe
yeah,
send us in advance, or you want to just kind of go, we could just go through this one by one on the next one as well too, and just keep on. Looks like we're pacing at about 10 a meeting.
yeah. I'm gonna go back and fix some things as we talked about tonight, and I can send this out. This is basically, these are where the first offense has a range resulting in termination. So these that we talked about tonight, termination is the only option. This one is where the range of the first offense could be termination. So we might have to work on some language there, but yeah, we can start that next week after we go over the notes from tonight.
Sounds good.
Let's hope there's peace next week with the election next week, and
Yeah, you might be out there in the streets, man.
so we'll see. I'll be in contact with you,
Yeah,
Commissioner. Just make sure.
yeah.
Great point. Yeah, keep us posted, Cap. You know, that's, you know, we'll know. We probably won't know nothing Tuesday night, which means it'll roll over into Wednesday evening, which might mean that folks may need to get pulled on in different areas of the city, depending on
Yeah.
what's happened. So keep us
And they
posted
may have to set up. They may have to set up in case, you know.
ahead of time. Yeah.
We have a full operation ready for whole
I-
week next week. So I'll let you know if we're gonna have any challenges.
I
And
got a
Mike,
neighbor who's a big guy in Homeland Security, and I was up yesterday morning, and early in the morning, I went out to get my mail, like, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, just couldn't sleep. And he was coming out. What's going on, Reg? I couldn't even see him. It was so dark. I said, I'm okay, Edgar. How you doing? I'll be glad when this is over.
Yeah.
Got it. I'll be glad when this is over.
Yeah.
That's all he had to say.
well,
So,
on that note, everyone be safe, and definitely it's some important times going into next week. So looking forward to hearing from everybody, and definitely keep
thank
us
you.
posted.
Hey, Gord, Lieutenant Durham, thank you for the conversation, sir.
Absolutely, sir. I always appreciate it, guys. You make me better, and definitely have me considering things that I haven't considered before. So it's always appreciated. Much respect, much love.
Okay, take care.
Take
Take
care,
care.
everyone. Bye.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good night.